The world's in a pretty tough place right now. Everywhere you turn, there's bad news. Well, I reckon us small business owners can be the shining light and help turn things around. And so does Peter Baines of Hands Across the Water. He reckons we can all do good by doing good. And he's proved it time and time again. Hey, before we find out Peter's secret to doing good by doing good on episode 372 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, the marketing gold that's about to rain down on us all is made possible thanks to Cornerstone and 52ways.biz. Now, 52ways.biz is a free one-day live event hosted by small business expert Dale Beaumont, who you would well and truly know by now if you've been listening to the show, for business owners who want to grow. Grab your free tickets over at 52ways.biz, and there's some new dates announced for Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane in late August because it's been so popular. And we're also brought to you by Cornerstone, an Aussie-owned, family-run offshoring business based in the Philippines, who can reduce your running costs by 70%. And you can book a free feasibility assessment with founder David Warren right now, well, after the show anyway. Give them a buzz on 029037 8275 or visit cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I am your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you are ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Big show today. Ex-policeman and forensic investigator, now founder of the amazing charity Hands Across the Water, shares his secrets on how businesses of all sizes can grow exponentially by creating shared value. Resident techspert Dale Beaumont from 52 Ways shows us how everything we type from this moment on can be clear, effective and mistake-free. Yeah, I'll see that when I believe it. I share another low-cost marketing idea that may involve a little travel. So it's not like low cost, it's nearly low cost. And we go back into the Small Business Big Marketing Vault, revisiting a chat I had that made the sales process almost look fun and exciting. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Hey, just a quick update, team. I have finally got myself a radio program. Well, not quite a program. It's a 30-minute segment on 58 stations across the Macquarie network with radio presenter Steve Price. Stations include 3AW, 2GB, 4BC, and it's on every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for half an hour till the end of September. And we talk about the positive impact technology can have on growing your small business. And I'll put a link in the show notes to it over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/372. Now, how would you like a cheap little marketing idea?
What have you got to lose?
It's time for one simple yet effective marketing idea that you can implement immediately. One that's not going to cost a fortune and that might just generate you more awareness, more inquiry, ultimately more sales. We all want a bit of that. I call today's idea the industry event brand boost. Now, to build a successful business today, you have to have a strong online presence. You have to invest in strategies that help you connect with and convert more people who are looking for solutions to their problems, solutions your business can provide. But that doesn't mean you should ignore growth opportunities that exist in the physical world. Despite how important the internet may be to the continued success of your business, you should still look for opportunities to connect with people in the real world. What a crazy idea. One way you can do this is by attending industry trade shows and conferences. Not only can attending these events help you connect with the right prospects, it can also help you connect with the right partners. We've had a lot of discussion on partners of recent episodes, haven't we? In fact, this is how I got my very first sponsor for this show all those years ago. So, here's my 3 steps to giving your business a boost by attending industry events. Step 1, use Google to identify upcoming trade shows and conferences. Step 2, decide if you want to participate simply as an attendee or if you'd like to attend as a vendor and pay to have an actual booth. Step 3, schedule to attend at least one every 6 months. Yep, one every 6 months, maybe every 3 months if you can do it. And here's the pro tip. When you're there, work hard. Don't be passive and just wander around with your hands in your pocket. Make as many contacts as you can. Get business cards, email addresses, phone numbers. Ask questions at the end of every presentation. Wear a gorilla suit if you have to. Just be sure to stand out and be active. That's my 3 steps to getting a boost by attending industry events. And you can head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/372, where you'll find a link to this post, plus some additional resources to bring this idea to life, including 55 tips on how to network a conference like a Jedi. So, what have you got to lose? Coming up after today's interview, I will share my top 3 attention grabbers. But right now, let's meet today's successful business owner, Peter Baines, who is an international speaker on leadership, change management, and corporate social responsibility. In a past life, Peter was a police officer, a forensic investigator heading up clean-up teams in the Bali bombings and the Thailand tsunami. He's also worked in Interpol's counter-terrorism unit. You know, he's seen it all. You might be wondering, but what value does he have to bring to my small business? Well, Peter's now the founder of the Thailand-based charity Hands Across the Water and a massive advocate for helping businesses of all sizes do good by doing good. In fact, he's written a really fantastic book on the topic. During this chat, Peter shares some really, really solid and tested strategies around how creating shared value is the key to powering business growth and innovation, and he backs them all up with real-life small business case studies. I started off by asking Peter what his biggest learning is, having seen the very dark side of human existence.
Resilience, I think. I think it's the case that when people are faced with really unique and challenging situations, people rise up and we come together as communities and we respond. And I think fundamentally we care about one another. And crisis and disaster brings communities together, and they may be international communities, they may be local communities, but I've seen in where I've worked across the globe in various and numerous crisis situations that inherently people are there to support and help one another.
And you see this time and time again, do you?
Yeah, you do, and I don't think it'd be foreign to any of the listeners that if they have if something occurs within the local community, that it brings people together. Mm-hmm. And whether it be bushfires, whether it be floods or a local challenge, people rise, and you hear about people forming relationships and getting to know their neighbours and people within the community that they've lived in for decades, but it's because of a challenge that brings people together. Same in sporting teams and all these things. And when people are challenged, I think they come together.
Have you seen this just as strongly in business?
I think it's where I see it strongest is when there is when the challenge is at its greatest. So when there's business that's you just performing, and there's no real high, there's no real desperate low, that you can come together and you can work in an environment and not really know people. But I think in particularly small business, we feel the highs and lows more so than in bigger business, don't we?
Yeah.
And I think that's those highs and lows that are both celebrated, and then the lows. They're felt stronger in small business, yeah.
So you do your time, decades, although, mate, you look about 28. So
Thank you. Can we make this TV then?
Yeah, that's right. You spend your time in the police force, you go across to Interpol, you spend a lot of time there. What was the moment? Why did you start Hands Across the Water?
Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't this epiphany.
Oh,
it wasn't,
really?
No,
We love epiphanies on this show.
It'd make a nice story, wouldn't it? But it was just the case that it was on my third rotation into Thailand, and I'd spent several months over there leading the Australian and international teams in the identification of the thousands of bodies who were recovered following the tsunami. And I met a group of kids. They were living in a tent, and I guess it was something, Tim, that I realised I couldn't change what had happened, that they had lost their parents, had lost their homes, but I felt I could change what happened next. And so I started Hands then just because it seemed to make sense. It seemed to be a way that I could do something, because I'd spent 20 years working with victims of crime, or the families of victim of crime. I'd been to Bali after the bombings, and so what I was seeing wasn't unique in that I was seeing people who were in need, but it just seemed that there was an avenue where I could do something, and it made sense to start. And I started with the goal of just contributing to the building of a house, and thought my job then will be done. But I was quite naive, and probably good in that naivety that allowed me to start and continue to where we are now.
So do you think there may have been a cumulative effect of, you'd done your time in Bali and other disaster zones, you'd finally got to Thailand? Was there something in the back of your head going, something's got to change, you've got to be part of that change?
I think more what it was that my career had always been dealing with the most serious of crime, and so investigating scenes of homicide and sexual assaults and fires and so forth. And I got promoted quite young and early within my career, and I was fortunate that continued. And so when I went to Bali, there were 202 people who died there, 88 Australians, and that took my work to another level. We're operating on a level much higher than anything. And I recall sitting in the airport talking to a Victorian police inspector by the name of Greg Hoff at the time, and we said to one another as we're leaving Denpasar, said that that's the biggest job we'll ever do. And then it was only 2 years later that we're in Thailand, and the size of the work in Thailand dwarfed the number of Bali, in that the bodies that we recovered. And so again, my role took another step up. And so I spent all of 2005 either in Thailand or working on the project in the deployment of teams to go to Thailand. And 2006, I guess it was a place where you return from. If you put it into a sporting context, for example, what we did in Thailand was the grand final on the highest level you can imagine. And so to come back and then think you're going to play park footy and be challenged at that level is difficult. And I got the opportunity then to work for the National Institute of Forensic Science on a counter-terrorism project that took me to Interpol, and then did some work with the UN. And I guess it was more not the work with hands, the more of how do I return back to what I was doing with the New South Wales Police and be challenged, be motivated. And I guess there were worlds that were colliding where when I was invited back, or I was told to come back after being gone for 2 years on secondment from New South Wales Police. And they said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "I want to take 12 months leave without pay to focus on building of hands." And I was told no. So I said, "Okay, give me some time, I'll take a week's leave," and took a week's leave and never went back and resigned. And I talk about it, Tim, as not an insignificant decision, but an easy decision because it was clear what I was going to do.
Not insignificant in that you were leaving a world of security, wife, family.
Correct.
Very easy to stay in the police force, trapped
absolutely.
in the cubicle.
All of your listeners who own small business, many might have stepped out and be the founders of those small business, and it's bloody scary.
Oh, yeah.
To leave the security, as you talk about, and particularly being in government, and particularly joined prior to 1988 when I did with the New South Wales, we had a tremendous superannuation system that existed, and it was sending the state broke. They changed the way it was after 1988, and I joined in 86, and the rewards, and because I got promoted so young, the rewards were always going to come at the end. But for me, leaving, I just thought I can't stay and hang on for another 10 or 15 years waiting to retire.
Yeah.
There's so much more to do. So it was the courage to leave. And as I said, the same in small business, to leave and follow your dreams and follow your passion. There's nothing like it. But, geez, it's scary at times.
Did you know at the time, because just go back a step, there's a lot of people listening who are running small businesses that they don't love. I know there's a lot of people listening in corporate who are trapped in the cubicle, who are desperate to start a small business. Did you know, I mean, you were leaving a world of security. The way you've just explained it, that super program in itself, your wife must have been going, Pete, did you know that you were about to embark on something that would truly satisfy you, forever?
Geez, I don't know. Like, I think it was just the case that, as I said, it wasn't an insignificant decision, but it just became easy. And the director I was working with at the time, a wonderful man by the name of Dr. Tony Raymond, he offered me the opportunity to stay and work part-time, and kind of unheard of in my level within the police, and to the point where he said to me, "You give me 1 day a week in the office, and you can work from home 2 days a week." And the reason I left, that was because if I'd stayed with that, Tim, that then retains the security and the super and all of that, and the reason I walked away from that was I personally can't let Tony down, and I realised by that time that my heart was no longer in that, and it was time to create the opportunity for someone else to step into the role I was doing, who was passionate and whose heart was in it and who was new to it, and it was time for me to find something else. And I've been fortunate ever since I've left that it's just been, I feel like I've lived a blessed life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you start Hands Across the Water. You build with the intent, the first intent was to simply build a home for these orphan children.
Correct.
You've done that, and clearly there's a moment where you've gone, hang on, that was literally one tiny stepping stone. What is Hands Across the Water now?
Yeah, you're correct. When we went to open the first home that we'd built, and I went to Thailand on that trip thinking we'll catch up with those that we've built it with, we'll have a celebration, I'll go back to my life. And I was still within the police at that stage, and I thought, job's done. But it was when we opened the home and we're driving away, and I thought, well, what happens now? Who raises the money to feed the kids, to ensure they have medical care, to put them through school, to pay the staff, pay all of the ongoing maintenance? And I realised that the job wasn't finished. It had only just started. Fast forward now, so that was 2005 when we started. 2017. We now operate in 7 different locations across Thailand. The work of the Tsunami will always be an important history for us and starting point, but it doesn't define us any longer. We have over 300 children who will wake up in one of our homes in a safe and loving environment. We provide over 320,000 meals a year to the kids and community. We've raised over 20 million Australian dollars without spending any money on donors, on fundraising or on administration. No donors' money is spent on that. And that was through a creation of a unique social enterprise, which is a small business in itself. I think the crowning glory of it is that we're giving kids choice. And by that, we have 47 children studying at university today. And what we know is that when they leave university, they'll have far greater choice than if they'd worked in a rubber plantation and been paid, the equivalent of $6 a day. So Hands is... it's unique, or I like to think it's unique in the way that we engage with our supporters and we come from the place of offering and sharing value rather than just seeking donations.
Yeah, right.
And that was the lead in then to the corporate social responsibility work and the consulting there that I did was, Hands.
Hold that thought,
Sure.
because that's where this is the kind of guts of any small business, any business owner listening. That idea of you can do good by doing good, which is what I want to explore. I have 2 questions though. One is, you reeled off some pretty big numbers there, Pete, pretty easily. And maybe it's just part of what you do now. But do you ever reflect on like how does that make you feel? And I'm sure there's a team behind you. It's not all Peter Baines.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
But you look back on that day you left the police force, and here you are, 12 years later.
Yeah. No, it's great. We had one of our girls last week who lost her parents in the tsunami. 10 years on. She lived with us. She graduated last week from Siam University with a business degree, and for the past 12 months she's been working in an advertising agency in Sydney. And doesn't want to go back to Thailand because has no family there, and her life is, what she creates. And I look at the number of people that engage in what we do, and I think it provides real meaning to them, and it's a pretty cool experience and pretty special.
You talk about choice, and I know you have, do you call them core values or what principles? But there were 3.
Yeah.
2 of which were almost like tickets to the game. Like you got to, what were they, the other 2?
Yeah, compassion, that we need to certainly have compassion in what we do. Commitment.
Compassion and commitments, like these are the values of the business.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So compassion and commitment you kind of got to, but choice was an interesting one, and you kind of articulated what that is, which is, again, every business. The guy from Swiss Multivitamins, Radek Saleh, who was sitting in that seat only last week, also had like 3 filters through which every business decision must be made, from employing staff to decking out the office to whatever. And clearly you're the same, and choice is a critical one.
Yeah, that's funny what you say about the previous speaker. One of the things for many years that we overlaid every decision that came to the board was, is this what we're about to do or what we're being asked in the best interests of the children? And it just became that, well, it might raise money, it might do this, but is it in the best interests of the children? And I think we've matured to simplifying things. And the measure, it's more about a measure with choice. Because, we can't be successful, and we can't claim to be successful if we build homes and raise money and the kids spend 5 or 7 years with us and leave and the girls end up in a bar or brothel when they leave our home. Have we been successful? And the clear answer is no. The measure of our success has to be what choice the kids have when they leave our home.
Brilliant. Love that. All right, so Hands Across the Water, doing good stuff. By the way, listeners, I'm talking to Peter Baines, who is the founder of Hands Across the Water, ex-cop, cubicle escapee, cubicle corporate refugee, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
So you've written this wonderful book, Doing Good by Doing Good, all right, which kind of says what it does on the pack. Do you believe businesses of all sizes should be doing good?
No, I don't think they should be. I think there has to be a desire within them. And I think there's a difference because many businesses, and as you get larger in scale, feel as though they should be contributing to community, to charity, either because their competitors are doing it, because it's a community expectation, because they're an ASX-listed company.
Wrong intention.
Absolutely. You know, and there's people out there who, and there was an article only a few weeks ago that I read was advocating that businesses who engage in CSR are taking money and time and resources away from their primary purpose, which should be about growing successful businesses. Now, and I agree with that, if you see CSR as a debit to the company. And if that's the case, it's not corporate social responsibility, it's philanthropy. And I think that there's two real differences, because if a company, and this is where we don't have to, and it's almost, it puts it in the wrong bucket when we call it corporate social responsibility, because this applies to a sole trader, to a family who can decide how they support and contribute and engage with the charity or community partners. You don't have to be corporate. You don't have to be big to be involved in this and derive the benefits. But, you know, I think that when we do this well, and that's the premise behind doing good by doing good, is if you engage in this effectively, it's good for you, it's good for the business, and it's good for the community.
So it's creating shared value,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay. Am I cheapening it? And call me on it if I am, Pete.
I will.
Am I good? Am I cheapening this whole idea of doing good by doing good as, hey, we might have just stumbled upon a really effective marketing strategy?
Yeah, I think you are.
Damn.
Yeah, because it's more than that, you know. And I think
it's half, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the strong economic returns may come, but maybe you're not meeting society's...
You're fundamentally right in part of it, in that, and it's a big part that people miss, is that I work with organisations, both small and large, on building a program for them, their CSR platform. And a big part that they miss, Tim, is what you've just spoken about, is the marketing. Because one of the important things in having a successful CSR program is to measure and report on it. And that reporting on it is the marketing piece. And it's not why you do it. And this is where that, you know, there's interesting conversations that are had in this space, where people will say, but that's not why I do it. I don't want to give for the recognition. I don't give to include it in my marketing. But here's the thing. If you as a business, as a family, as a sole trader, as a small business owner, if you do well out of your engagement, let's call it CSR just to make it easy, if you do well out of your CSR, guess what? The charity that you're supporting will benefit as well. So you as a business, if your CSR is a profit centre back to your business, and I suggest to you, and in the book I say that if it's not a profit centre, well, then you're leaving money on the table. But if it is a profit centre back to you as a business owner, well, then the pie that you've got to give away in money, time, resources, knowledge grows. So then, as I sit as a charity founder and leader, it's in my interest for all of my business relationships and supporters of the charity, it's in my interest for them to do well, because then they'll stay.
Makes sense.
Because you look at...
It's like if you're paying more tax. If you're paying more tax, it means you're making more money, right?
That's absolutely right.
Same.
Absolutely.
You go as far in your book, Pete, to say that philanthropy, staff volunteer programs, payroll deductions, and I'm going to quote you, outdated and ineffective.
Well, they can be. If that's, and this is where it needs to be qualified, in that saying that if that is your sole contribution, well, you're not going to expect much of a return.
Right.
Here's the example.
One-way street.
Absolutely. Here's where, let me qualify that statement around volunteering. A lot of organisations, their platform will consist of those three things you just spoke about. One is the donations they'll make. One is giving staff 1 day off a year to volunteer with their charity. And the third is payroll deductions. Now, if that's the sum total of your CSR program, I just don't think that, one, it's in anyone's real interests. And here's what I mean by that. If you give someone 1 day off a year, you run a business, Tim. If I came to you once a year and said, I'm here for the day to support you, how effective am I?
Well, it's going to take me 2 hours to find you something to do.
And then you'll send me off to get coffee. You'll put me in front of a training video. I might do some photocopying for you. And really all I am, and you know, for all of your listeners running a small business, my intent might be pure, and small business and charity are so aligned in our size and resourcing and the pain that we feel, the celebrations that we feel. If I came into the small business, if it's a plumber or a vet or a doctor or whoever, and I say I'm here for the day and I'll be back in next year, how useful am I?
Useless.
So why, because we're a charity, does that change? And what I'm suggesting is that's not the best way to do it. What you can do, though, and this is one of the things I talk about within the book, is what about if the organisation that had, and this is then getting towards larger organisations, rather than giving every staff 1 day off a year, and there's such a small percentage of people that avail themselves of that day, what about if we donated that day back, and then someone within the team said, well, I'll actually take 26 of those days from 26 of the staff and I'll go and volunteer with the charity once a fortnight. Then we start to get some traction. So it's just doing things differently.
I can imagine the fight that would break out choosing which staff member is going to get those 26 days.
Well, I think that there's, you know, what you're effectively doing is then you're going to a charity that there's alignment, and this is where, you know, when I start working with the organisations around building a CSR program, so often there'll be two examples or two cases I'll go in. One is that their current relationship is not working, or that they're new to it and they want to do it properly. And so often I'll walk in and normally it's a 6 to 9 month engagement once a month that I'll spend with them. So often I'll go in and I'll say, okay, when do we pick the new charity partner? And you go, well, actually what we need to do is develop this alignment between values, develop a set of principles, and we work through it all. So rather than just picking a new charity partner, we find alignment. And that's where we get the effective relationships.
Well, let's talk case studies, Pete. You've got numerous in the book. Give us some examples of businesses that are doing good by doing good.
Yeah, look, I think that there's plenty of examples that we can talk about. You know, let me talk about two to start with. One, which is well known to your audience, is Business Blueprint. So
Dale Beaumont's
Dale
business.
Beaumont. You know, I've known Dale for probably a decade now, and he runs a business that brings small business owners together. And Dale was aware of these charity bike rides that we do in Thailand, and for us, it's a big part of how we raise the $1.5–2 million a year that we need to operate our facilities. And people come on the bike rides, they have to raise $10,000. They pay for their expenses on top of that. They ride 800 kilometres over 8 days. And if they don't raise the money, Tim, I have a conversation with them prior and say, look, I appreciate your effort, but you have to raise the $10,000. You're welcome to be there at the end. The interesting thing is there's so few of those conversations I have to have because people raise the money. Dale came on the ride, experienced it, and rang me a few days later and said, I want to do one of these for my team, for my group. And we've been blessed that he's been part of that, and just finished their fourth ride a couple of months ago now. They've raised over $1 million for us. But you speak to Dale and you speak to those within his business, and they know that this offering is good for their business.
How?
And what it does is it creates a unique shared experience. So people want closer relationships. And by way of example, between November of 2017 and May of 2018, we will run 12 bike rides in Thailand, one in Australia.
Hands across the water.
Correct. One in Australia, one in New Zealand. Now, 2 of those are charity rides in Thailand. The rest are corporate rides. And what's happening is the groups are saying, you know, like how I entertain and my clients or build my leadership team traditionally is they take them away, they get them on the drink, they go to a nice restaurant. But, you know, people who are top salespeople, or they've done that. You know, it's hard to wow
Just to
them.
understand that, you've got 14 bike rides in the next 12 months.
12 bike rides.
You've got 2 of those pure hands across the water. Anyone can come. You just got to raise your 10 grand. There's 10 of them where individual businesses have said, we'll take one of those, we'll take the responsibility for getting as many people as we can at 10 grand each. And it's the business blueprint, hands across the water, or it's that business.
Correct. So
love it.
We created a corporate ride model, and again, corporate doesn't describe the activity, but it's a
bad word. Corporate.
It is.
Can we find another word?
Yeah, I said that to our guys. We need new names for these things, and we're not very creative. We've got our January rides. Guess when they occur?
Probably in January.
Yeah, our corporate rides. Guess who they're for? Not corporate. So we haven't done well there. But our model with the blueprint model, it's 5 days, 5 grand, because what we find is they can travel on a weekend, have a week away, and be back. Last year,
800k in 5 days?
No, 500. 500 Ks, 5 days,
I got a
5
cramp
grand.
then just thinking about it.
But we took, so LJ Hooker, who a national real estate company, who I built their CSR program for them. They did one of these rides, and but for them, they left during the week, so they only missed one weekend. But the reason they come away, and you know, we did it with Fisher and Paykel last year. I've got it with Smeg this year. Westfield we've got who do it. Business Blueprint do it. I'm heading to Thailand tomorrow, and we're creating a ride for the Australian community in Thailand. So the small businesses who are part of the Australian Chamber of Commerce are doing their own ride, because they come together for networking, right? You come together, they're there for 2 hours, you end up talking to 1 or 2 different people. How about the relationship, though, when you spend 5 days together? Let me give you an example. I led a ride maybe 3 years ago now. It was a Melbourne-based ride, and a group from Melbourne, businesses, they're in property development, and it's called OYOB, the Own Your Own Block was the business, small business, and one of the riders on that was the branch manager from Bendigo Bank.
Franchisee, small business owner. Yep.
And there for the community, a fantastic bank doing great things in the local community. He rode on the ride, and at the end of the ride, a short time later, I was asked to speak at a conference for Bendigo Bank. Mike Hurst, the MD, a great man, spoke before me, and we were both talking about shared value. I was talking about CSR, and in the audience was Ash, who's now the manager of the Deakin University Community Bank, and I pulled him out of the audience and I said, Ash, jump up on stage here for me. I said, tell the audience, and the audience is all bank managers and branch managers and small business owners. I said to him, how was the experience for you? He said, changed my life, and he was in the right space. And I said, how was it from a business perspective? And he said, the best thing I've ever done. He said, I wrote 20% of my loan budget in that 1 5-day period. And the audience was just aghast. These are all branch managers going, where's the next customer coming from? He said, I wrote 20% of my loans on that 1 week. I said, how hard was the business? He said, it's the easiest business I've ever done. The reason is you're spending 5 days riding and talking and hanging out with people. And if we go back to that very first part we spoke about, Tim, when we talked about what brings communities together, well, there's nothing more levelling walking into breakfast when everyone's in Lycra.
Yeah, so true.
No one looks good in Lycra. There's very few. But, it doesn't matter then where you sit. You jump on the bike, you spend the next 25 Ks, the next hour, just chatting with someone, and then you share the stories, you share the pain, you climb the hill, and share the fun. What happens, one of from the Fisher and Paykel ride I led last year, their biggest customer who did the ride, at the end of the ride, we had the final dinner with the kids. He was walking out and he said to the guy from F&P, he said, "I view your company differently now."
Wow.
Because of this experience. And the head of F&P looks at me and going like, every box that we hope for has been ticked. And we achieved things in relationships in that week he's never been able to do through normal incentive programs, and it's this engineering shared experiences.
My mind is exploding here, Pete. I'm just trying to. It's a pity we can't do this more often, i.e. get into some Leica and go on a bike ride and form relationships and do good. I have a meeting tomorrow. To me, it's a very important meeting. It's I'm looking for a long-term 12-month sponsor of this program. I don't have any trouble attracting sponsors, but I'm wanting to step it up. I'm talking fairly... no one's listening to this, are they? So I've got a meeting tomorrow with someone who has the potential to be that. Yeah. And I'm going into that meeting cold. I've done my research on them. Maybe they've looked into me, but it's just going to be... It's going to be one of those meetings, Yeah. There's not going to be any emotional connection. If I'd been on a bike ride, or if there'd been some way, not a bike ride, but there'd been some way of connecting at a much deeper level. The shared experience. And so I'm just wondering how the hell do we, without having to ride 800 kilometres in Thailand, which I wouldn't mind doing, and I can maybe see a small business big marketing show, hands across the water in the future, but. Wow, I mean, and I don't expect you to have the answer, but how do we get more shared experiences so that when we do business with people, it's done with better intention, it's done with, greater community, it's done with doing good and doing good in mind, all that. I mean,
and that's been the success for us is creating these opportunities for people to engage. And when we talk about CSR, we talk about small business. You don't have to be big to enjoy these benefits. It's about in investing wisely and forming these relationships with fewer for longer. So you talk about the sponsorship, and what I hear from you is that there's lots of, you can attract sponsorship, but you want long-term relationships. Yep. And that's exactly the same.
I don't have a problem attracting sponsors. I want long-term. I want to step it up into kind of bigger brands. And I want that sponsor to be someone who I'm aligned with.
Yeah. And that's, everyone listening through small business, that's what we want, don't we?
Correct.
And our bike rides, we're fortunate, and it's a two-edged sword, I guess, but 76% of our riders come back and ride a second time. We celebrate 10 years of riding this January in Thailand, and there's 2 that have never missed a year. And this year we've got 10 signed up who will do the double. They do back-to-back 800-kilometre rides. So they'll ride 1,600 kilometres with me in the space of 18 days, and they'll raise $20,000 for that privilege. And the reason they do it is because of the return that comes to them. And so it doesn't have to be a bike ride, and this is what I do with the businesses, is help them find opportunities that align to them. And this is when I talk about the relationship with community and relationship with charity, is one of the things is say, what are the opportunities for you to engage with them? Because sometimes it's some of the big charities, it's like taking sand to the desert. They don't need more money, and as small business, the impact that you're going to have by going to a big charity, and normally that's the first they turn to because it's the name that they know, they're not going to get that buying power, to use a phrase, but... finding a charity that's a small business like they are.
So you're suggesting possibly align in size, if you are going to go down this path, align with a charity that is maybe a similar size, that where you strategically can have an impact. If you're a vet, then get involved in an animal shelter.
Well, I think it's the important thing, and this is where, we obviously can't cover it in a 30-minute chat, but it's I develop a set of guiding principles where we work with each business and say, what is it that you want to take out of it? Is it time? Is it expertise? Is it money? Is it shared experiences? And then we develop this whole filter process, so then we can go into the market and say, well, what charity aligns with what we want? So rather than just saying, well, I know charity X over here because that's my wife, that's her favourite charity, or it's the CEO's husband's favourite charity, or whoever it is, and therefore it becomes a company charity. So what about something that actually matches with what we want? You know, some will want to be involved and some will say, no, look, all I want to do is give some money. We go, that's okay, but then have your expectations set around the return. Yeah. Because if you want brand identity, if you want new business opportunities, if you want staff retention, staff attraction, if you want to separate yourself in the market, well, then just giving money is probably not going to be the thing. But when you start, developing these guiding principles that bring that alignment closer, well, there's a better chance of being successful.
Pete, thank you, mate, for doing what you're doing. Thanks for sharing some insights into how my listeners, small business owners of all sizes, can do good by doing good. What next? Can they get your book, Doing Good by Doing Good? How can they contact you? Yeah,
just through my website's probably the best thing, just peterbaines.com.au, and there's links through to Hands there and the books I've written and all the rest. So
brilliant, mate. And I'll put a link in the show notes to that and a video that I've seen of yours that I know people appreciate. So thank you, buddy, for coming in.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.
There you go, Peter Baines from Hands Across the Water. What a great bloke. You can find out more about Peter and Hands over at Peter Baines, that's BAINES.com.au. Now, coming up, I share my top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Peter, plus Dale Beaumont's got a nice little productivity surprise for us. But first, I think it's time for a little karaoke. Support for this show comes from a very in-tune Cornerstone, an Aussie-owned, family-run offshoring business based in the Philippines. Not only is Cornerstone in tune with the pain points shared by many Aussie business owners, they also have some very in-tune employees. You see, I recently asked a few of them, what's their go-to karaoke song, and would they sing it? Here's what they said. Actually, here's what they sung.
You are the one who makes me happy.
Strangers making the most of the dark.
Casual goodbyes by the chill in your embrace, the expression on your face.
Touch me, tease me, until I can't deny this love and feeling.
Minsan lang kitang iibigin.
Cornerstone, where your offshoring experience can hit new heights. To see how you can benefit from offshoring, book a free, no-obligation feasibility assessment now at cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au or give them a call on 02 9083 6689 and tell them Timbo sent you. Oh, goodness me. All right, my top 3 attention grabbers from my chat with Peter Baines from Hands Across the Water, thanks to 52ways.biz and Cornerstone. Attention grabber number 1. Businesses of all sizes can do good by doing good. I love that. What many, including me, may have once considered a soft marketing strategy for growth is clearly not. Attention grabber number 2. I love the idea of creating shared experiences. There's no doubt that once 2 people are emotionally connected, the business relationship takes on a whole new dynamic. And if you want to see that in action, or at least hear it in action, go back and take a listen to the episode I did on racing car sponsorship, which is over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/318. And attention grabber number 3, there's nothing wrong with wanting a return on investment from having a strong social conscience. Nothing at all. Love to know what grabbed your attention. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/372 and leave me a comment.
Life just got a whole lot easier.
Hello, it's Dale Beaumont here from 52ways.biz, the best one-day business workshop ever, with another productivity tool to make your business life a whole lot easier. So what is the tool that I have for you today? Well, it's called Grammarly, and it's spelled Grammarly. So you can Google Grammarly, and there you'll find this is a Chrome extension. So I'm guessing most of you will be using Chrome as a browser. If not, I believe this is available in Safari as well, but it's an extension that you can download and it's absolutely free. Now, what this basically does is it's a spell checker. Now, most spell checkers exist normally within, say, Microsoft Word or any other type of word processor. However, you might be writing, say, for example, a blog post, or you may even be writing a post on social media, but oftentimes spell check is actually not at work there. However, with this tool, spell check is then used anytime that you're using your Chrome browser, whether that be a social media post, a blog post, you're writing on your website, or you're replying to an email. Grammarly is working for you all the time to make sure none of those unnecessary mistakes slip through, and it will mean that your quality of work will go to a whole new level. So that's Grammarly. Check it out today. You'll be glad you did. There you go. I told you life would get a whole lot easier. This has been Dale Beaumont from 52ways.biz. Now, back to you, Timbo.
Life just got a whole lot easier.
Hey, thanks, Dale. I think I need Grammarly big time, especially when spell check turns Timbo Reid into Tomboy. And how many times have you typed the word use for it to come out as Sue? Not good. Not good at all. Hey, if you're loving the productivity tools Dale is sharing, then you're going to love his upcoming live events. He literally shares 52 ways to grow your business. 52 in one day. They're happening around Australia and New Zealand. New dates have been released for Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane in August due to popularity, and you can grab your free ticket or two or three over at 52 ways. That's 52ways.biz. Whew. Well, that almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. But don't worry, there's plenty of marketing gold coming your way in the weeks ahead, including a chat with one of Australia's leading chefs who reveals what appearing on MasterChef has done for his personal and business brands. Hey, have you listened to my chat with sales guru Nicholas Lynch, who shared his 5 game-changing tips to closing more deals? Here he is talking about tip number 5.
And I'm a magnificent closer. ABC, always be closing. Now, there's Louis Labradors out there, and there's disciplined Dobermans. I'm a disciplined Doberman. Now, you cannot, unless you've got those top 4 in place, you cannot effectively close.
Okay.
Now, most people are warped doors, Tim.
Yeah?
They're warped doors.
What do you mean?
A warped door. They can't close.
We got a drum sound effect.
Because closing is about process, it's about script dialogue, but it's more importantly about process, and it's about going through the doors in the right order.
2 things about that interview. Nicholas's 5 tips were certainly not what I expected. Plus, his honesty and transparency was really inspiring. You'll find the full interview plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on your favourite podcast catcher. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. Email me, tim@timreid.com.au, R-E-I-D. Hit me up on Twitter, @TimboReid. And be sure to grab your tickets to 52ways.biz, which is a bit of a business-changing event. I went to the Melbourne one, loved it. I encourage you to get out and do that as well. Don't have to go to the Melbourne one. They're all around the country and New Zealand. Plus, if your to-do list is freaking you out, then it's time to start building that team in the Philippines. Give Cornerstone's David Warner buzz on 02 9037 8275 or visit cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com. If you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then let another business owner know. In fact, grab their phone, open up the podcast app and download this show for them. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.